What's going on, people in internet land? Kimchi Chris here, and welcome to today's brand new episode of Rock Bliss with Kimchi Chris, an episode that I would say is highly anticipated. A lot of you out there want to know my stupid opinions on what just unfolded in Nashville, Tennessee, because Creatures Fest 2022 just wrapped up, and I got some opinions. Now, if you clicked on this just kind of randomly and don't know what Creatures Fest is or was, hopefully is, because spoiler alert, I'm hoping there's another year of it. Basically, Creatures Fest is a KISS Expo on steroids that just took place in Nashville, Tennessee, May 27th, 28th, and 29th at the Sonesta Hotel. And what I mean by a KISS convention on steroids is that they had all of the main components of a KISS convention. They had KISS-related guests, they had dealers, they had special events, but they also had some KISS-adjacent musical acts, as well as some that really didn't have much to do at all with the band, but were still artists that the general KISS populace, if you will, would probably enjoy. So this was a very anticipated event for a lot of reasons, and we're gonna get into that here in just a second, but first, I gotta talk about day zero, Thursday. So the convention made the very good decision to let people pick up their tickets early. Now, in the past, there have been conventions, most notably the KISS Atlanta Expo a couple years back, where Vinnie Vincent reemerged, that were a complete train wreck to check into. I've even had anime conventions that my band was a guest at that it was a nightmare to get checked in as a paid guest. But I gotta say, Creatures Fest delivered already. Day zero. The check-in window was super easy to find. It only took like 10 minutes maybe of waiting to get my tickets, and throughout the entire weekend it never looked like it was overly busy, even though there were a lot of people there, because they just knew what they were doing. They were running things really well, and I have to commend them on that, because getting people in the door can be a very hard thing for these events, especially for these first year ones like this. So I had a good taste in my mouth from day number zero. But even if day zero puts a wonderful taste in your mouth, what's gonna happen on day one? Will it be an amazing buffet that you wanna keep coming back to for more? Or will it be the most depressing buffet of your life? Well, I gotta tell you, I showed up right as the MTV Unplugged set was kicking off. Basically, the convention put together all kinds of musicians to recreate this iconic record. Members of Trickster, members of Enough's Enough, members of the Bruce Kulick Band, all kinds of people gathered together to recreate this. And it even did feature a guest appearance from the one and only Bruce Kulick. And I gotta say, it was awesome. The sound was a little bit iffy in certain areas, but when I kind of maneuvered to the front, it sounded pretty good. And by sound, I mean literally the PA. The playing was on point. These players were great, and of course when Bruce went up there, it was really awesome. What was surprising was he didn't really play the songs he was necessarily known for in the band. He did Sure Know Something, A World Without Heroes, and Rock Bottom. Now, I know he played on the MTV Unplugged record, of course, on all of those tracks, and he was awesome on those, but I was just a little bit surprised. But it was really cool to see him do it, and it's awesome. Anytime Bruce is around, it's going to be great. He brought his whole band up there to play those parts, kind of reconfiguring the entire stage, and it was a really great way to kick things off for what was about to unfold throughout the weekend. But I did notice while all this was going on, I saw Mr. Ace Frehley lead guitar. I saw his manager on the side of the stage bringing up what looked like a very nice guitar case, and I said to myself, are we about to get an invasion from the Space Ace? And oh boy, was I right. He came up there and he did 2,000 Man with the band. And you can see videos of that here on YouTube. Was it perfect? No. Was it rehearsed? Probably not. But it was awesome. To see Ace basically playing in a backyard, let's just be real, wasn't even really a stage. It was just by the pool deck. It was awesome to see him there. And you know, the videos, again, I've had some complaints about them already on YouTube, but if you were there and enjoying it in the moment, I don't think you would have complained for a second. It was a good time to see him there. It was really great. And after that, they finished out the rest of the set with some of the other musicians, and I walked away feeling extremely satisfied already. I was like, yes, this is gonna be a good weekend, I can tell already. But that was just the first event of the day. There was so much more to unfold. Now, Friday was a little bit more limited in scope in the fact that the dealer room wasn't open yet. There weren't daytime events outside of that one, so it was kind of just time to hang out till night. I went with one of my friends to get some food. It was a good time, and we got back just in time to see John Corabi on the main stage. And if you don't know who John Corabi is, what's wrong with you? He was the singer in Motley Crue when Vince Neil was out, and He's still the best singer that Motley Crue has ever had. They've only had two, but yeah, he's pretty darn good. And he still brings it. He's still great. It was an acoustic set. He was hilarious. He played songs from Union, The Scream, Motley Crue, an original one or two. It was a good set. It was a good set overall. Really set the tone for some more amazing things to come up. Then Enough's Enough played. I know they have fans. I'm not really one of them, but they did play. They sounded fine, I suppose. But then the main event of the night kicked off. Ace Frehley guitar was going to play a full set. That's right, a full Ace set. And this was the first moment of the weekend where we got something a little different than what was advertised, but honestly, I wasn't super disappointed by it because it was advertised that this was going to be a deep cut set, or at least parts of it were going to be deep cuts, voted on by the fans. Well, that didn't really solidify, but that quickly went to the back of my mind because Peter Criss was announced to be a special guest on stage. That's right, Peter and Ace were going to reunite. We were going to see him in the flesh. What a crazy thing. If you had told me this was going to happen 2 years ago when the world was falling apart, I would have never believed you, but that's what happened. And what can I say? It was magical. It's the best way to say it. I didn't see a sad person in that entire place. It was crazy. Things just kind of slowed down in time when Peter came on stage. He came out, they set up some acoustic guitars, and they did Hard Luck Woman. It was great. The crowd was singing along. Peter was in good spirits. He looked good, and Ace was there just jamming out with them. It was great. It was great. It was absolutely amazing. And then after that, Peter kind of walked to the side of the stage, and there was kind of a collective, oh, that's all we're getting, but I think people were still okay with it. But we quickly saw Ace's drummer, Matt Starr, getting off of the drum set, and we knew something was about to happen, and that's when it happened. They played Strange Ways. That's right. Strange Ways with the original Catman, not only drumming, but singing the entire song. It was awesome. It was awesome. I don't even know what there is left to say about that. It was awesome, and as quick as he was on stage, he was off stage, and the rest of the set continued basically as a normal Ace set. They did play She, which I know they haven't been playing as much recently, but I know that's kind of in and out of Ace's set. But it was great. Ace's backing band is really awesome, of course, and Ace sounded good. The sound was a little bit wonky in the main events room at this point. It got better throughout the weekend, and as was the lighting. Lighting was a little bit wonky. But overall, it was a pretty good experience. I had the regular general admission ticket, so that meant I was a little bit further back than the people that spent more money were up in the front, but I could see and hear just fine for the most part. So it was cool. It was a good time, and Friday was a really chill, awesome day. It felt like a rock and roll party, and I was very, very satisfied already with the weekend, but Saturday was right around the corner. If you've been following along at home, you know what was scheduled on Saturday. That's right, Vinnie Vincent was scheduled to finally make his grand return to the public stage on Saturday, but there was a lot more going on before that. The reason it's worth bringing up, however, is that Vinnie Vincent was the talk of the town that entire day. You would occasionally hear people say, oh hey, wasn't it amazing seeing Peter last night? And you'd have people talking about the Unplugged show and things of that nature, but it always led eventually to, do you think he's going to show up or not? Do you think he's going to play or not? What's he going to sound like? What's he going to do? That's what Saturday was in a nutshell. But there were some great events on Saturday. The first one was the afternoon jam that had all kinds of members from various bands there. You had people from Ace's band. You had members of Enough's Enough. You had members of Trickster. You had members of the Bruce Kulick band all coming out to the basically side stage that was located in the dealer room, because the dealer room opened up on Saturday. And that's kind of how I opened my day. I watched that performance before I even really looked at any of the dealers, and they played a lot of great songs, some things like Judas Priest, AC/DC, Aerosmith, all kinds of great things. And it was really, really fun. They put on a great, great show. The sound, unfortunately, like the main events room, was a little bit wonky, but that's always the problem when these events are in convention centers and hotels. These places are not designed to have these type of shows, but they got it figured out, and they sounded pretty okay by the end of the set, even though it was really loud. Do I sound old saying that? That specific room was loud. The main events room was loud too, if I'm being completely honest, but it was very loud for that first performance. It definitely got ironed out a little bit later in the day, but great way to kick off the day. And the dealer room was awesome. It was awesome. There were so many great dealers. I wish I'd set more money aside, if I'm being completely honest. I really do wish I had set more money aside, because I didn't really know what we were in for there, so I didn't set that much aside. But I did pick up a few things, mostly cheaper things, some like shirts, buttons, some tour books, a Warlock Laserdisc. That's right, Doro's old band on Laserdisc. How crazy is that? But overall, good dealer room. Assuming this event happens next year, which again, I really hope it does. I'm gonna say that like 37 more times throughout this episode. I will definitely set a lot more money aside because there was some great stuff there. I feel the dealers probably cleaned up pretty well, so I think a lot of them would return for an event next year. But I guess we'll have to see what happens when we get there for that. But at some point midday, rumors and talks about the Vinnie Vincent experience started to surface because an email was sent out saying that he was changing the time he was playing. That's right, he was scheduled to be the grand headliner Saturday night, but then he wanted to be pushed up to be the opener Saturday night. So Pretty Boy Floyd and Vixen were scheduled to open for him. They were now going to be the headlining acts, and Vinnie was going to play first. Even in the email they sent out, they didn't give an exact time it was supposed to start, but they did say sometime between 7:30 and 8. I think they were pushing for 7:30, but you know, it's Vinnie Vincent. You never really know what's gonna happen with this guy. So talk started to spread quickly at the convention. Some people were saying, is he gonna play at all? Some people were saying he was now scheduled to be even earlier than that. Some were saying later. It was getting kind of crazy, but I realized quickly that you just need to go by the word of the convention, which they were good about sending emails out with, but to be completely honest, they weren't great about posting it around the actual convention. They could have put some quick signs up, maybe use the PA in the dealer's room to announce it. I don't know what it was, but I think they were maybe unsure of what was going to happen as well, because I blame this all on Vinnie. I don't blame it on the convention organizers at all. I could be completely wrong, but the rest of the weekend went so smoothly that that's just the facts. Or at least that's my opinion as to what the facts are. That might be a better way to state that. Anyway, going back to some positivity though, because we're really gonna focus on that. A lot of people are concentrating on the negativity associated with this event, which, to be fair, there's not a lot from me, but back to the positivity. Quarantine was next up on the dealer room stage, and that is Chris Jericho, yes, the wrestler, Chris Jericho. It's his Kiss cover band where they concentrate on non-makeup era Kiss. That's right, the 80s and early 90s era of Kiss. And it was great. It was great. They were so good. They were so good. Bruce Kulick came up and played a song with them as well because he's the guy that played with everyone all weekend. He really did play with practically every performer, it felt like. But they were great. They played stuff from the 80s, from like Asylum, and from Crazy Nights, and from Revenge. I mean, they played No, No, No. What a crazy song to see perform. They also performed Silver Spoon, which they recently released as a single. I mean, these were deep cuts, but it was awesome. Chris Jericho, what a frontman. I mean, his whole shtick in this band is to basically be like pseudo 80s Paul Stanley, and he made a ton of references and homages and a little bit of parody of that version of Paul, but it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and my only complaint or question about them is why the heck were they not on the main stage? They should have been on the main stage opening the Friday show, or the Sunday one, or even the Saturday one, or headlining the Saturday one since the schedule got all crazy. I think if they come back to the convention, if the convention happens next year, and I think they should come back if the convention happens next year, put them on the main stage. They deserve that main stage spot because they were great, and they brought a crowd. They brought a pretty good crowd out. And I think if they had played later in the day, it would have been an even bigger crowd. So Quarantine, if you get a chance to see them, they don't play a lot of shows because it's a weird combination of things. You know, you have to kind of be into non-makeup Kiss, and I guess kind of into wrestling to enjoy them, but not really, because I'm not a wrestling guy, but I enjoyed them thoroughly. They really put a positive energy into the day, and who knew what was about to happen next, but I think we all know where we're about to go. So we took a quick break, got some food, got rejuvenated, and got ready for the main event, for Vinnie Vincent's grand return. We got back to the hotel from food around 6:30, 7, something like that. Line was already getting pretty big, waiting to get in there to see Vinnie, so we got in the line, queued up, and waited a while. It's very reminiscent of the Atlanta experience, waiting for him for hours in a very small hallway. We were in a very small hallway as well, talking to everyone around us. Everyone was having a good time. Everyone seemed to be in fairly good spirits at that moment, but it did start to get a little bit more tense and a little bit more stressed as time went on, because we thought the doors were open because the line started to move. That's a logical way to think of that, right? Well, all they were doing was letting us into the area in front of the ballroom. And I think the reason for that is because Vinnie was pretty crazy about security. There were metal detectors and they pat you down and didn't let outside food and drinks in and things like that. Something that I've never experienced at a KISS convention, anime convention, nerd convention, any of these things I've ever been to. It was very, very weird. We all know that he's paranoid about these things, so I know it was all him because they did it the night before as well, but they did not seem to do it on Sunday at all. Maybe they did. I wasn't there at the beginning of the shows on Sunday, but once he was done playing, even Saturday, they weren't doing it if you went in and out. So it was very weird, very tense way to go into a show, but we all got led to the area in front of the ballroom, but the doors weren't open. They weren't open. The area was packed with people, but the doors weren't open. And that's where the mood did start to slightly change overall. Because we were stuffed into that sweaty area like sardines for about an hour and a half. It was insane. The doors for the show kept not opening and kept not opening and kept not opening, and there was no communication, nothing. Now, I don't completely blame the convention organizers, even though it would have been nice to have something out there, because we don't know what was going on behind those closed doors. But I can tell you this, we weren't hearing any music out there, and people really started to talk and really started to think that Vinnie wasn't going to show, or maybe he had never shown. We didn't know what was going on. It was very concerning, and the mood got very dark for a little bit, and there were some people very mad out there. Very, very mad out there. But eventually, we saw Neil Davis, the organizer of the convention, bolt out of the main room. He looked very stressed. I felt very bad for the guy. He's working so hard. He looked very stressed, and he went right up to security and said, "Open the doors! Open the doors!" Something like that. I don't know. I couldn't really hear him because there were so many people in there, but I'm just imagining that's what he said. But then as soon as the doors opened, we could hear guitar already. It was flooding the halls, and as a result, these people tried to flood into the main events room, and I'm very happy and a little surprised that nothing happened as far as people getting trampled or punched or anything like that. Now, we are still in a pandemic world, and that was definitely a worry of mine because all of us were darn close, and this event, of course, had no regulations when it came to being vaxxed or anything like that to get in, but hopefully not too much of that came out of this. But as we were getting into the room, Vinnie was already playing, and I have to say, the visual walking into that room, the visual of that, it was great. I can't lie. You know, in the past I've voiced concerns or criticisms related to Vinnie Vincent, and we're about to get to those. But the visual, he was on the giant tank that they made, just on top of it, shredding his guitar away, no backing track, no melody, just Vinnie Vincent on top of a tank with smoke coming out of the side, in his makeup, shredding away on his classic guitar. And for a moment, at least, all of that stress, all of that intensity of being shoved in a tiny little hall, it went away. Went away for a little bit. And everyone just seemed to be kind of in awe. They were like, wow, there's Vinnie Vincent. He's on top of a tank, and he's playing. Now, here's the thing. Vinnie Vincent's style of shred playing is completely subjective. It's completely objective. And you can have any type of opinion you want on it. Me personally, I'm not a fan of that stuff. I'm not a big fan of the shred stuff. Never was, never will be. I like his songs more. I like it when he has melody in his parts. I think he can write songs well. I think he can play them well when he's restrained. But I know that he likes doing the shred. People like the shred from him. And it is what it is. Now, a lot of these videos that are already floating around, people are commenting that he doesn't sound the same as he did in the 80s and things of that nature. And maybe he doesn't sound the exact same. That's true, but he can play. That was a fact that was proven that weekend, and he did play. And when you were there in the moment, he sounded pretty good. I was impressed. I'm gonna be honest. Compared to what I had heard about him, my expectations were met. Now, quickly, I started to hope this wasn't going to be the whole show, because as he was shredding away with no sense of song structure or melody or direction, it dawned on me how kind of boring that is. And he did it for probably 15 or 20 minutes, which, if you ask me, was probably like 5 to 10 minutes too long. I get that he wanted to show everyone he could do it, and that was a very weird thing to walk into. If I could summarize this entire performance with one word, it would actually be bizarre, because it was bizarre, it was weird, it was strange, because it felt like you were walking into another world. He's on a stage with makeup. He looks like an alien on top of a tank in a tiny little hotel ballroom. I mean, it was sizable for that kind of event, but all things considered, not a giant room. And It just felt like you were in another world. You were in Vinnie's world at that point. And I should have known, since we were in Vinnie's world, some things were about to change. So I'm sure you're asking yourself at home, Kimchi Chris, if all of this happened, why are you not showing us some video? You always show us video. I just watched your vlog about this event and there was no Vinnie video there. Wait a second, I watched your vlog about this event. You said that Vinnie wasn't allowing video. That's correct. Wasn't allowing video. Wasn't allowing pictures. And this was handled in a very, very, very poor way. This is the one time I'm going to criticize the convention, as well as Vinnie, because I know it's his decision, but they made the decision to not make this more public. There were no warnings, no signs, no yelling at the crowd that was shoved in there, nothing. Going in, tons of people were videotaping, tons of people were taking pictures. A lot of it's leaked out already, you can find it here on YouTube. And none of that was communicated to anyone, and there were a lot of overly aggressive security guards there. Just being awful, just being awful. There's a video floating around of this one guy getting his phone smacked out of his hand by one of the security guards. I personally know someone that got escorted out of there and ended up with a police officer because of this. Didn't get arrested. He didn't get arrested for Vinnie Vincent, but that happened. There were some girls next to where I was, a mom and a daughter, okay, that got escorted out. They weren't filming or anything. When they got back into the venue eventually, we asked them, were you guys doing anything? And they said no. We weren't, but security was convinced we were and told us to bring out our phones and delete anything we recorded and act like it never happened. It was insane. This was handled so poorly, so poorly. I don't even know how to describe it hardly. And even though most musicians don't do this, there are a lot of comedians that won't allow videotaping and such because that's their bit. And there are some musicians even that do it. Jack White is a big one, but all of them tell you in advance that you can't do all this. And this was even a thing that was brought up beforehand. Will we be able to take video and photos of Vinnie on stage? And generally speaking, it was always implied yes, and maybe even said yes. I don't know exactly. Didn't do my research enough for this because I wanted to get the info out to you, but regardless, this was handled really poorly. Really, really poorly. And I feel bad because it's the one negative thing I can say about the convention, and we're kind of droning on and on about it right now, despite all these positives that are around everything, despite Ace and Peter reuniting on stage, despite the Bruce Kulick set we're going to get into here in just a little bit, despite Vixen, which played later in the night, they were great, but this is something that's definitely worth noting, and if this ever happens again, I don't know, I think it's inexcusable. If Vinnie doesn't want people videotaping and taking pictures and such of his performances, that's fine. Just let people know beforehand, but I don't know. I know it's a Vinnie thing. I know it wasn't really the convention. I just think the convention could have handled things a little bit better. But past that, back to the show at hand. Vinnie shredded for, as I said, about 15 or 20 minutes. I don't know, you lose track. It all kind of sounds the same, so it's whatever. I'm not hating on the guy for it, it's just not my style. It was still really cool, and I was a little bit in awe watching it though. But after that, a bass player came out on stage, and the drums for I Love It Loud came over the PA, and he shouted to the crowd something like, "It's party time," or whatnot, and we all thought, okay, the shred was just the intro, now we're gonna get into some stuff. Well, that was the only band member at that point. It was a bassist and a pre-recorded drum track with vocals over the PA as well. Now this is where it also got even weirder because a lot of the people working on the convention as well as members of other bands came out on stage and were like a cheer squad almost. I don't know what you would really call it. They're just kind of dancing around on the sides of the stage and the front of the stage where there were some microphones. They were kind of singing along to I Love It Loud, but kind of not. It was weird. It was very, very weird. It gave the vibes of, like, I hate to say it, but like a little kid birthday party where Vinnie was the kid and everyone was just trying to make them happy, even if it was a little bit strange to experience. But Vinnie's not a little kid, he's an old man. So it was very, very odd. It was very, very odd, but it happened. They did extend the solo part in the song because we all know I Love It Loud doesn't have the most extensive solo. They extended that part, he played a little bit more, and then all of those extra people went off stage. It was what it was, and that's just kind of how it went down. And then the bass player announced that Bruce Kulick was coming out on stage, and that's exactly what happened. Now, I was completely expecting them to probably play Unholy when Bruce was on stage. That's what I thought. I thought it made most sense of any song that they could play together, considering Vinnie wrote on it, Bruce played on it, etc. But they went into War Machine, and it was a little bit rocky. It was a little bit rocky with the pre-recorded tracks, but they got there, and it was fun. Sounded good. They were kind of just playing along to the track. It continued to be bizarre with the fact that Vinnie's just on top of a tank. The bass guy was just kind of running all over the place. Bruce is kind of just there, and it really was strange as well when Bruce initially came out, because you got the vibe that they had not interacted at all before this. Bruce was even trying to interact with Vinnie a little bit, but it just wasn't happening. Vinnie was in Vinnie land, basically, which makes sense because between every song and every interaction, Vinnie looked so nervous on stage. His face said it all. His body language said it all. He was not comfortable up there at all. Not comfortable at all. But at this point, you had Bruce on stage. You had the bass player kind of leading everything, almost acting as a hype man. It was all right. It was fun. It was something I experienced. And then after that, they brought Ace on stage. Brought Ace out. So you had what they kept calling the Holy Trinity for the weekend. You had Bruce, Vinnie, and Ace on stage. And this is where things really kind of fall apart and go into train wreck territory. I can't remember off the top of my head if they tried to kick into Deuce or Cold Gin first, but whichever one they tried to kick into, or whichever one Ace tried to kick into, it wasn't the right drum track. And it got really kind of messy at that point. Ace looked agitated. Bruce looked like he was just trying to, you know, keep things together, and he was kind of the awkward person at a family gathering, and Vinnie just looked like he didn't even know what was going on at that point. Very, very weird. Ace even said the quote of the weekend that I'm paraphrasing because, again, there's no recording, so I don't know exactly what he said, but something to the effect of, I can play anything if I have a drummer. He just wanted a drummer on there. He hated playing to those pre-recorded tracks, you could just tell, but they eventually went into Deuce, and Ace and Bruce sounded great. Vinnie didn't play that much on it. At times he was just pointing to them and smiling. It was odd. It's very, very odd. This was supposed to be Vinnie Vincent's show, and Vinnie was just not playing much at this point. So they got through Deuce. It was what it was, and then they went into Cold Gin. Ace sang some of that song, and again, Vinnie kind of was just in the background, or not really the background. He was on top of the tank, but it was what it was. It was an odd visual too to have Vinnie as, like, I don't know, King Vinnie? Is that the right way to say it? He was on his throne, a tank throne, and then you had Ace and Bruce below him. I can't imagine they were comfortable being up there at that point. Ace looked visibly annoyed. That's just my take. I don't know if he was or not, but he did not seem to be happy up there. But with Bruce, he kind of just kept going because he can deal with these awkward situations, but it was very awkward at times having those three on stage. It really, really was. And when Cold Gin was done, so was the show. And just like that, it was over as quick as it started. Vinnie had to be helped off the tank at the end by the organizer, Neil Davis, as well as a security guard. And that was the point I realized that Vinnie didn't look physically super well. And despite all of these weird things and bizarre things happening with him, I kind of felt bad for the guy because I'm curious how he is doing physically, just on a human level. We don't really have video proof because, again, there's no video out there. Maybe there is video that, I don't know, the show was over at that point, but he did not look well when he was coming off of that. But he did come to the front of the stage, fist bumped some people, shook hands, smiled some more. Never spoke the entire time. Never spoke on stage. Vinnie never said a single word. And then he silently went off as quick as he was on the stage, and that was it. Vinnie's comeback show was over in 45 minutes, and I don't even know what else to say. I really don't know what else to say. It was unique, it was weird, it was bizarre, it was strange, and it was so Vinnie Vincent. It was so Vinnie Vincent. If you thought you were going to this and you were just gonna get a regular show, you're wrong. However, the one problem with that is that it was advertised at one point that it was gonna be a regular show, that he was gonna have a full band, and they were gonna recreate the Rio 83 Creature show with all the songs, the tank, and everything else. That's why the tank was created, but that's not what happened. But yeah, I don't even know what to say. If you had to really ask me if it was a good or bad show, I don't even think it really fell into either of those categories. I just think it was so unique and so weird. It was like performance art. It was like noise music, if you know that as a genre. I don't mean just pure noise, but the noise genre where you just walk away not really knowing what to say or how to react to it. That's what it was. Everyone was flabbergasted, and when he was done, a lot of the tenseness seemed to go away. A lot of the room emptied out as well, but it was over. Vinnie came. Vinnie, I guess you could say, conquered. He did something, and then he was gone, as mysteriously as he appeared. And that was that. And since they did have to disassemble the entire tank before the next act, there was a lot of downtime, and talking to people around, it was very mixed opinions, but a lot of people were disappointed. I'm just gonna be completely honest. A lot of people were disappointed. Some people were excited. Some people were just happy they got to see Vinnie, but a lot of people seemed very disappointed. It was the complete opposite of the night before, where everyone was just on cloud nine after seeing Ace and Peter. Very, very mixed opinions at best on this. And again, the next day, Vinnie was the talk of the town, and nobody really knew how to even put into words what they saw. Several people I even interacted with said they felt like they were on drugs when watching him, or it was like they were extremely drunk while watching him, or something to that effect. It didn't seem real. It didn't seem of this world. And I know with this description, it might not even make the most sense, but if you were there, I think you would agree. Bizarre, that's the only word you can use to really describe this event. But after that, Pretty Boy Floyd played a set. It was really fun, and then Vixen headlined the night, and they were great. They were incredible. Really good musicians, really talented, really professional, and the night did end on a very positive note. Not that I'm saying Vinnie was necessarily a negative note, but there was some negativity leading up to it, and he was a perplexing note of the night, to say the very, very least, but ended on a very positive note, and I was looking forward to Sunday. So after not very much sleep, Sunday did indeed roll around, and I showed up just expecting to hang out in the dealer room and just, you know, see what was going on. I did catch the very end of the Kiss fan band that morning, just the tail end. Unfortunately, it was being led by Chris Dene, a really good friend of mine and a cool guy here in Nashville that plays all kinds of music. You should check all of his stuff out. He plays in Power Slave as well, which is a really great Iron Maiden tribute band if you're into Iron Maiden. But that was a good way to start the day, even if I did just see the tail end of it. Wish I'd got up early enough to see the whole thing, but it was starting early, and I hadn't slept much for the last couple of days. But the day progressed as a pretty much normal Kiss convention type of day in the dealer's room and whatnot. And from there, the rest of the day progressed like a normal Kiss convention. I was gonna have to leave early and hopefully make it back for some of Bruce's set because I had something else I had to do, which we'll get into in a second. But before I left, they sent out an email saying that Ace Frehley lead guitar was doing a surprise last minute, whatever you want to call it, meet and greet. So we had an opportunity to meet Ace, and I took it. I took it. He was set up in a little room. Luckily, I read my email fairly quick, so I was at the front of the line. And it was a pretty affordable way to meet him, a little bit cheaper than the VIP meet and greets they did earlier in the weekend. So I got some pictures with him as well as some autographs. It was great, and I was on cloud nine. What a positive way to possibly end the convention, because the thing I had to go to that I had tickets for well before this convention was Weird Al. That's right. Had to go see Weird Al. And you know, one of the craziest things about seeing Weird Al in the middle of a Kiss convention is normally that would be the strangest, oddest thing of the weekend. But after the Vinnie Vincent experience, despite some of the things that Weird Al does in his show, he wasn't even close to the most bizarre thing I experienced that weekend. But Weird Al was great. I really enjoyed him. He's doing a deep cuts tour, something I'd love to see Kiss do, and it was awesome. And luckily, it ended early. So after the Weird Al show, I zoomed right back to the convention and actually got to see most of Bruce Kulick's set. That's right. He played the Revenge album in its entirety, and I got there as Domino was blaring out. So I missed a little bit. I missed Peter Criss coming on stage with them. That's kind of a bummer, but I did see the rest of the set. And after the Revenge album, they did Sword and Stone. The demo, that was awesome. They did Tears Are Falling, they did Crazy Crazy Nights, and they did Turn On the Night. And the vibes were amazing. Compared to the night before, it was all positivity. And really, that's what most of this convention was all positivity. It was just a few weird things that happened on Saturday, all related to Vinnie. But mostly positivity outside of that. And during Bruce's set, Neil Davis, the organizer of this ridiculously cool weekend, went through the entire crowd. I'm pretty sure he went through the entire crowd, and he thanked each person individually with handshakes, hugs, talks, whatever it was. What a guy, what a guy. I do have some respect for him. I know he was getting a lot of trash talked about him leading up to this, and to be fair, I think the whole reason was Vinnie Vincent, but he deserves some respect. Sure, he's a guy that has some money to throw at something like this and hope for the best, and that is what it is. But he seemed like a genuinely cool guy, and I definitely had some respect for him by the end of the weekend because this convention was fun. It was a good time. It was really good. It was extremely impressive for a first-year event. I've been to so many anime conventions in particular over the years with my band that were first-year events that were just a complete train wreck the entire time. And this wasn't. As far as the way it was ran very, very well. There were a few hiccups here and there. The sound could have been better at times. The lighting could have been better at times. Communication could have been better at times with the audience. But I really don't have a lot of complaints. This was a really, really fun weekend. Well worth the money. I actually kind of wish I had, went for the VIP tickets, if I'm being completely fair. Or maybe some of the meet and greets. I planned to do the Peter Criss meet and greet, but it sold out before I could get my tickets. So that was a different situation, I suppose, with that. But what a great event. I mean, I could just say that all day, but I really walked away from it feeling good, feeling positive, and feeling very hopeful that this event does return in 2023, and I really hope it stays in Nashville so it's right in my backyard. That would be great. If the Indie Kiss Expo isn't going to return, this could take its place. And I really like the idea of having the Kiss guests with the other bands playing that weren't necessarily Kiss, but were Kiss adjacent or just bands that, Kiss people would like. I think that was a really cool combination, and moving forward in years, if this thing does continue 5-10 years down the road, when the Kiss guys get too old to perform, you could keep this thing going for a while with some other rock and roll bands and things of that nature. So there's not much left to say except for one last thing, and that is the fact that so many of you on the other end of this, that have stuck it out to the end of the video, so many of you recognize me from the weekend. That was crazy. That was so crazy. I took selfies with people. I talked to people. One guy just kept screaming at me, "You're in my TV normally. You're in my TV normally, bro. You're in my TV." I hope you're watching this, "You're in my TV" guy, because you made me laugh and left a mark on me. But yeah, so many people knew who I was and were excited I was there and said they were looking forward to whatever came soon from the channel. I even had some people that were concerned about my eye issue I brought up in the last episode. So thanks for that. Thanks for being concerned about my well-being. The eye's doing fine, by the way. So that was really great. Really made me feel good and made me remember why I make these things. I haven't been as active recently, but hopefully we can change that soon. So with all that being said, were you there? Did you have a good time? Did you say hi to me? Did you maybe meet some heroes? Did you see some heroes? Are you hoping for Creatures Fest 2023? If so, what would you like to see there? Let me know all of that and more in the comments below. Again, my name is Kimchi Criss. Thank you so much for watching this one because it's a long one. And if you are new around here, make sure to subscribe, give this thing a thumbs up, turn on your alerts so you actually know what's happening if you're subscribed. Otherwise, I'll see all of you on the next episode